Hey, you're listening to the Matt Ueno podcast. This is my ghetto mic setup. For now, this is my phone and one of my speakers. So hopefully the audio is really good, or at least as good as it can get. But yeah, today we're going to be talking about how to immortalize your fears and excuses, and the subtle and both the subtle and overt ways that you're doing, or overt things that you're doing that are keeping your fears and excuses protected, untouchable. What you're doing, the things that you're doing to immortalize them and to give them a nice fertile ground for which they can grow into your life. And that's not something that we want. And so in today's podcast, I'm going to be going over the 3 critical habits that you engage in that's feeding your fears, that's keeping them alive, and that's protecting your ego from change, that's protecting your sense of self from being offended. So if you want to learn about that, stay tuned for the rest of this podcast. Hey, you're listening to the Matt Ueno podcast, and this podcast is all about being in the dirt with you guys and sharing the lessons that I've learned along my journey of life and entrepreneurship and faith and relationships, so that you guys can learn from my failures and learn from my successes. I'm really excited about this because I really want this to be a podcast where you are listening to somebody who is pretty much on the same level as you guys. You know, I don't have $1 million business. I don't have the home of my dreams. I'm in my bedroom right now. I'm using this really ghetto microphone stand. But I'm grateful for it all. I'm not saying that the situation I'm in is bad or that it's something that you should avoid. I'm really, really grateful for it. But this podcast is all about everybody who's up and coming. But even if you're successful, there's so much that you can learn in this podcast and so many fresh perspectives that I hope to share with you. So without further ado, here's the podcast. So the first way that you're immortalizing your fears and excuses is you're keeping them abstract, meaning you're not facing the reality of precisely what it is you're afraid of, what is holding you back. See, it's really easy for us to have a goal or to have a state, an optimal state to which we can strive for and say, that's not attainable because of X, Y, and Z. And most of the time, X, Y, and Z is an abstract thing. Meaning, for example, if you're trying to lose weight, maybe your X, Y, and Z is, oh, there's sugar in everything, so why should I even try? I'm effed from the very beginning. I'm not going to be able to lose weight because big sugar is in everything, or there's fat in everything, right? That's not getting down to the nitty gritty of what exactly is actually holding you back. Maybe, just maybe, you're using big sugar and big fat, like the corporation sort of talk, as an excuse to not lose weight. Because it's an abstract thing. It's not a specific thing that's holding you back. Maybe the specific thing holding you back is the fact that every time you get stressed out, you go to Dunkin' Donuts and you get a donut, or you go to 7-Eleven and you get a soda. Those are the specific things related to sugar that's messing you up. It's not big sugar. It's not the fact that sugar isn't everything. Look, the thing that I've learned about excuses is that a lot of the time, you're not wrong about them. Sugar is in a lot, I'm not going to say everything, but it's in a lot of the foods we eat. It's in our ketchup. It's in, obviously our juice and our sodas, but even things that you wouldn't expect there to be sugar in. Even healthy foods have sugar, but sugar is not the enemy. You are. Your habits are the enemy. Your mindset, your willingness to blame these abstract ideas is the enemy. The other way that we use the abstract is, I guess part of what I'm getting at with the abstract is generalizing and having a big picture of what the problem is, right? It's not getting down to the nitty gritty of exactly what it is you're afraid of, what it is you're running from, what are the very things. So the analogy I like to use is that a lot of the times, the problems in our life are this little chihuahua that barks really loud, but we don't see the chihuahua. All we see, or all we hear is, and let's just say that this chihuahua has a mic hooked up to him, and we can't see the Chihuahua. And there's this light shining right next to the Chihuahua that's casting this giant shadow on the wall of this big, ferocious beast, this loud, ferocious beast. And we look at this shadow, we take a glance and go, oh shoot, that is scary. That's a big, giant thing. I can never conquer that. Man, I shouldn't even try. But if we just pull back the curtains, just take a step and pull back the curtains, maybe, just maybe, we'll see that the problem that we are looking at is simply a mic'd up Chihuahua that for some reason has a light next to him casting a really big shadow on the curtain that you're looking at. That's the way that we keep our problems general. That's the way we keep our problems abstract. So, for example, if you're trying to make money, or let's say you're talking to someone and you're trying to give them advice on their financials. Something that they might say is, for example, oh, I can never be rich in this economy because the big corporations are just going to smush me and they're going to take all my money. And they're going to, they have all these things against the little guy and there's no way that I can do it. But they don't see the opportunity in all the ways that people are making money. They're blaming big corporations. They're blaming taxes. They're blaming the rich. Why they can't. And look, again, and the thing about excuses and fears is that a lot of the time they are rooted in a grain of truth. You know, like the rich can have an effect on you. But honestly, if you understood the opportunities, the abundant opportunities out there, you would realize that this big, scary picture of big corporations and the 1% are actually a lot smaller than you think they are, or they actually have a lot less of an impact on you than you think. And another way that we generalize our fears is we say, I'm worried about what they will think. I'm worried about what he or she will think. You know, a lot of the times when we're worried about what they think, they, in quotes, we really mean a couple specific people. There's this really great book called The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox-Caban. And in this book, she talks about how and why charisma is not just something you're born with. It's a skill that can be harnessed. It can be improved upon. And one of the biggest things that kills a person's charisma is how scared and how concerned they are with what other people think, what they think, what everybody else will think. The really cool thing that she outlines in her book is this idea that our brains like to be efficient and we like to speed up the process of processing, the process of thinking by putting things in boxes. This is how we get stereotypes. This is how we get generalizations, for better or for worse, because it's so much easier for us to put a bunch of things that are similar enough into a box, other things that are similar enough into a box, right? Vegetables, for example, like we have a mental vegetable box where all the leafy greens and everything that's not meat and not sweet goes in the vegetable box. Everything that is not meat and that is sweet and that grows from a tree goes in the fruit box. But for us, the people that we're concerned about as far as their opinion goes, we put them in the them box. We put them in the everybody box. We put them in the they box. Did I already say they? I don't know. But what that means, it's not truly that you're scared of what everybody thinks of you. You're not actually worried. Chances are you're not actually worried about what everybody else thinks. What you're doing is you're putting a couple specific people in the everybody box, and you're falsely thinking that you care what everybody thinks. So think about when you say you're afraid of what they will think. Think about who specifically you mean by they. Who specifically you mean by everybody, all those people. Who specifically comes to mind when you are worried about the opinions of others? Write those people down and look at each of those people and ask, why do I care about his or her opinion? Why do I care about his or her opinion? Why do I blah, 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 right? And you just kind of go down the list. And if they are people whose opinion should matter in your life, like for example, maybe you're trying to get a promotion and your boss is one of those people you care about, you probably should care about what they think because they have the power to give or not give you a promotion. But what you'll find is that a bunch of the people on that list, maybe it's even just one person, is a person whose opinion shouldn't even matter. And just the fact that you're able to pinpoint who precisely you are concerned about, that in it itself can be extremely empowering, because now you went from everybody to, oh, there's these few people that I care about, to, oh, this person or that person specifically, I'm really concerned about their opinion. Why? Why are you concerned about their opinion? Is it because they criticize you a lot? Is it because they always have something negative to say? Is it a family member? Right? From there, you can then have practical solutions to a specific problem. And that's the thing about your fears and excuses. If they remain general, you're going to only ask general questions, right? Let's say you're asking me or some sort of motivational speaker, how do I gain motivation? That's a really generic and lazy question, right? It's like, I don't know, read more, listen to more podcasts, rather than what if they said something like, hey, every time I go on Instagram, I compare myself to others, and that really kills my motivation. What would you suggest I do about that? And a lot of the times when you get really specific about what precisely is freaking you out, what precisely is holding you back, just the fact that you're able to put a pin on it and name exactly what it is, the answer is obvious. Like, for example, if Instagram and self-comparison is killing your motivation, stop going on Instagram. Stop following those people. See, that's a much more solvable problem than I lack motivation. And at the same time, identifying the specific people that are detracting from your life, just the fact that you can identify those specific people, you'll generally have the answer. Like if you go from, I'm worried about what everybody thinks of me, how do I deal with what everybody thinks of me? That's again, a general question that's going to get general answers. But if, say, Sally from HR always has something negative to say, well, now you know it's Sally from HR. Now think about, why do you care about Sally's opinion? Is it because it hurts every time she says something about you? Maybe you could acknowledge the fact that Sally's miserable. Sally doesn't have a life. And that every time you do something meaningful and worthwhile in your life, it makes Sally insecure. So the insecurities that Sally has are going to be projected onto you. And when she projects her insecurities onto you, it makes you feel insecure. Right? That's the power of getting your problems from general to specific. Because again, if it's everybody that's out to get you, well, it's quite literally you against the world, which is a seemingly insurmountable task. But when, again, you can pinpoint, it's Sally. Sally from HR sucks. Sally from HR is miserable. And every time I do something meaningful and worthwhile, Sally gets insecure and she projects that onto me. I don't need none of that shit. Sally can just do her own thing. I'm going to do my own thing, right? And look, I'm not saying to rail on the people that detract on your life, because, enemies or friends, I believe that we should love everybody. That doesn't mean we have to tolerate everybody, right? But that means you shouldn't, just don't hurt them, right? Don't talk stink about them. Don't gossip about them, because, on that note, gossip is only going to hurt you. So whatever it is that you're concerned about, whatever it is that's holding you back, that you're scared of, get it specific. Peel back that onion. Peel the layers. Is it everybody that you really are? Or is it the couple people in the crowd, right? It's the same thing, idea of one bad apple ruining the bunch. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's even how the phrase goes, but you get what I mean, right? If you had a really bad example with, I don't know, kale, you ate kale that was really bad, you might falsely think, oh, kale is in the vegetable box. The mental vegetable box. Therefore, all vegetables suck, right? And if your doctor says you need to eat more vegetables, you're going to say, but I hate vegetables. Vegetables suck. I don't want to eat vegetables. When really, what you're really saying, what you really mean is that kale sucks. Kale is the thing that sucks. And so if your doctor is able to peel the layers and say, oh, you know what? It's not vegetables that you hate. It's kale. Have you ever tried arugula? Have you ever tried Brussels sprouts? Have you ever tried broccoli? And now you can start coming up with solutions. Because that's the thing. It doesn't automatically mean you will get a solution, but it sets you up. It's those few jabs you need to set up that beautiful, clean right hook. that gets the knockout punch on your excuses and your fears. That's how you that's how you deal with a fear. That's how you deal with an excuse. You get it really specific. Peel the layers and ask why, who, what, peel the layers. So that's way number one. Number two, the other way that you can immortalize your fears and excuses is to identify with them, is to think that you are fundamentally flawed in a particular way. Because look, maybe you have identified what specifically you suck at, what specifically you're not good at. Maybe you're not confident. Maybe you're shy. Maybe you're introverted. Maybe you suck at knitting, right? Sometimes you genuinely suck at something, right? And sometimes the thing that you suck out truly isn't in line with your natural capabilities or your talents. Like for me, for example, I'm a pretty short guy, right? And it would be naive for me to say that I can block shots and I can dunk just as well as LeBron James, right? Right? There's a fine line between confidence and delusion. Sometimes you can be delusionally confident and, that can get you places. But if you identify with your weaknesses too much, if you make your fears and excuses core to who you are, any effort, any challenge to those is challenging you. And this is dangerous because it is one of the most powerful ways that is stopping you from becoming the best version of yourself. Because if you identify as not confident, any advice, any effort towards becoming confident is going to attack your identity, which is why it's so important not to put your identity in certain little traits about yourself. I mean, you can be realistic about that, but to put your identity on something bigger, something better, something that contributes, something that goes beyond you, where a lack of confidence is no longer a part of who you are. It's just simply an aspect of you that is interchangeable. It's something that can change. If you identify as someone who is just always negative and always pessimistic, well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's what it's going to be. I'd invite you to look at all the limitations that you identify with yourself and the conclusions that you come with. Like, for example, I am a short guy, right? And I played rugby in college, and I don't think there was ever a shorter dude in rugby out of all the games that we've played. We've gone to Oregon, we've gone to New York, we've played all around California, and I was consistently the shortest guy there, and I'm not going to delude myself into say I'm the strongest. Yeah, I'm short, but I'm the strongest guy. No, like it's about realistically identifying the strengths and weaknesses that I have. We did really great things on the rugby team, and I think I did pretty well. And part of that wasn't flying in the face of reality and saying that I'm stronger than the 200, 300-pound Samoan that I'm going against, but it's to say, hey, I'm short. What kind of opportunities does that present for me? What kind of, opportunities, right? So instead of identifying your weaknesses as a non-negotiable part of who you are, look, it's pretty non-negotiable that I'm short, right? But I can look at that as an opportunity to do really good things. Maybe you're an introvert. A lot of people look at introversion as a weakness in business. Oh, I'm introverted. I can't go out and cold call, blah, blah, blah. Look, if you might very well be introverted, but figure out how to use your introversion as an opportunity. One of my favorite books, David and Goliath by Malcolm Gladwell, completely changed the way that I view strengths and weaknesses. Because what he argues in that book is that David didn't win against Goliath in spite of his size. David beat Goliath because of his size. Because David having the sling and Goliath having the big heavy armor and sword was like bringing a gun to a knife fight. Look, and I'm sure maybe some of you theological experts might disagree with that conclusion, but the whole point here is that what are your weaknesses? What are the things that you think are holding you back? And how can you use those things to your advantage as opportunities instead of weaknesses and setbacks? So I think you should correctly identify your strengths and weaknesses, but don't identify with them. Don't say that this is just who I am and that there's no changing it. Look at every weakness that you have and see that as an opportunity, because here's the thing. Just pretend that in the world there are 1,000 carbon copies of you, each with the same exact weaknesses that you have. Out of those thousands of people, none of them are going to be thinking about their weaknesses in terms of how that can be their strength, how that can be an opportunity. Now think about the millions of people on this earth who have all these perceived weaknesses, but don't have the lens of opportunity. That is such a blue ocean for you to go in. And for those of you who don't know, red ocean is basically where all the competition is. It's where the sharks go, they eat, and it's red because it's all bloody. All the competition is over there. Everybody else is in the red ocean. They're getting eaten alive by their limitations. They're getting eaten alive by their self-perception. But the nice blue ocean with no blood is where you can be. Because you can be the standout that looks at your weaknesses and says, where's the opportunity here? Where is the unique proposition that I have because of my weakness? So identify your weaknesses and find the opportunities in them, but don't identify with them, because if you identify with them, it's not going to go anywhere. Number 3 is projecting your weaknesses, your fears, your excuses onto other people. When you do that, you make it their problem. And if it's their problem, it's not your problem, and you absolve all responsibility. And if you listen to my last podcast, which you should definitely do, taking away your responsibility necessarily takes away your power to change. Because if it's everybody else's fault, your option there is to wait until they get better. You have to wait around and just wait until they become better so that you can succeed. And that's not powerful. There's nothing you can do if it's their if it's their fault. If you can take responsibility for your excuses and your fears, you give yourself the responsibility and therefore power to change that, right? The thing that I've noticed about myself is that whenever I think people are judging me about a certain thing, look, they might be judging me for whatever it is. Maybe I'm getting judged right now for the way I'm doing this podcast. Maybe this setup is just way too ghetto for people who are just used to high quality things. Maybe the fact that I'm using a GoPro is just a cardinal sin in the video world or whatever. Anyway, what I've noticed is that a lot of the judgments that I'm afraid of getting are the judgments I already have about myself, right? They're the judgments or they're the insecurities that are just coming out in the form of projection. If I'm insecure about how my face looks, right, then I'm going to probably think that other people think my face looks bad. Why? Because I'm projecting that insecurity onto others. But if I'm fully confident in my face, if I'm fully confident in how I look, one, I'm probably not going to think about it. And if I'm not thinking about it, one, I won't be concerned about them judging me. And number 2, they probably won't be judging me. And number 3, if they are judging me, it don't even matter, because it doesn't matter to me. And the point I'm trying to make here is that the judgments you get, the objections you get about who you are, oh, he's too ugly, his podcast sucks, he doesn't know how to do business, or whatever. Those are the insecurities you already have that you are falsely projecting onto other people. Because like I said in my last podcast, nobody cares about you. Nobody cares about what you're doing, generally speaking. Which means is they most likely aren't thinking about all the little details of what you're doing and how it can be better. Now, for sure, there are people who will judge you. For sure. But if you're confident, those judgments mean nothing, right? The only time judgments have power over you is if you already have it about yourself, right? One of my mentors, Joe, he was talking about having a sales meeting. And one of the things that really stuck with me was that the objections you get are the ones you bring with you. Meaning if you go into a sales meeting concerned about the price you're going to charge and scared of the price you charge, that's going to subconsciously come out in your voice, in your presentation. And if they're the ones that say, oh, your price is too high, it's not their fault that the price is too high. It's not their fault that the price objection came out. It's your fault for not communicating absolute confidence, absolute authority in whatever it is you're selling, to where the price becomes logical. The price is something that makes sense, right? Like if I had a McDouble or a McChicken, right? And I said, this McChicken is $1. You'd be like, okay, that's good. But if I said this McChicken is $25, you'd be like, oh my gosh, that price is way too high, right? Because the value doesn't match the price. But the thing about value is, part of what brings value is the way you communicate value, right? So let's say I have a burger that's legitimately worth $25, but let's say I'm not confident in the fact that it's worth $25. And during my sales presentation, I'm like, yeah, this burger's pretty good. I mean, it has ground beef and mayonnaise and ketchup. And by the way, it's $25. $25, what? But what if I came into that meeting saying, hey, this burger is the best burger you will ever have in your entire life. The meat came from the exquisite fine plains of Japan because it's Kobe beef. The mayonnaise came straight from the finest eggs and olive oil in Italy. The onions came straight from Sicily itself. And the lettuce came straight from my backyard. And my backyard is the best backyard I've ever had. And by the way, what would you expect to pay for this burger? $100? $200? No, this burger is $25, right? And so, whether or not you're able to communicate the value, if you are not confident about the value you bring to the world, the judgments, the objections that you get from other people are the ones that you already have about yourself. Look, maybe that wasn't the best sales presentation of a burger, but the point here is that if you don't feel confident in what you bring to the table, people are going to sense that. People are going to feel that. And their objections that they give to you are the ones you already have, the ones that you brought with you. And I'm not saying this is just true in sales. I'm saying this is true in all aspects of life, even in relationships. Like, how do you expect your significant other to trust you if you don't even trust yourself? How can you expect your significant other to have affection for you if all you do is wallow in self-pity? If you don't even have affection for yourself, and not in some sort of like weird narcissistic way, but right? Like how do you expect your significant other to view you as confident when you are so insecure? And how can you expect your significant other to have confidence in the relationship when you don't have confidence in the relationship, right? The objections, the judgments that you get are the judgments and objections you have with you, the ones that you bring with you. So, to recap, if you want to immortalize your fears and excuses, you need to keep them general and abstract, because general and abstract problems have general and abstract solutions. And general and abstract solutions suck. They suck. Get specific. Peel back the layers of the onion of what precisely, what specifically is the issue. Number 2, don't identify with your weaknesses. Identify your weakness and then identify the opportunities. Identify the unique positions that you can take that nobody else is taking. Every weakness you have is an opportunity. Every perceived strategic disadvantage can actually be the best advantage that you have. And number 3, don't project your insecurities onto others. And the thing is, if you're getting judgments, if you're getting objections, they're probably objections and judgments that you already have about yourself. And how do you not judge yourself? How do you not bring objections with you? Just get better. I mean, I know that sounds like such a sucky answer, but competence brings confidence. If you want to get confident, you have to be confident. Wait, if you want confidence, you have to increase competence, right? None of this, you get to be confident just because. No, like, if you want confidence, get some more competence. And that's how you can reduce the amount of judgments you have about yourself. That's how you can reduce the amount of objections you have about yourself and the objections that you get from others. And I hope this was helpful for you. And look, it would be really, really, really helpful if you got value out of this podcast, that you would share with others, that you would leave a rate and review in iTunes or in Spotify. That'll really help me out, and it really helps me to reach more people. And if you think this is valuable, please share it with a friend. This podcast, I'm super stoked about it. I hope you're I'm so stoked I can't even formulate words. But if you found value out of this podcast, I'd really appreciate a share, a rate, and review. Go get it.